Group, we thought it would be interesting to be inside the head of a murderer. We wanted to understand what made him tick and what got him going to become the man that he is, or was. Hitler was born in Brankow, Austria on April 20th, 1889. Hitler's childhood was one of the many things that affected how Hitler's brain worked. He had a very rough childhood. There is even proof that his father beat him and his mother. Hitler was the fourth child to be born. Soon after his birth, 2 of his siblings died from diphtheria. When Hitler was young, him and his family moved to the Benedictine monastery. The coat of arms that was used there is now known as the swastika, for it is a symbol that Hitler used for his party. When Hitler was a young boy, he dreamed of being a priest. He wanted to grow up and teach others. In 1903, when Hitler was 4, his father died from bleeding lungs. When Adolf himself was a young boy, he suffered from lung infections. In Vienna, Jews were treated as scapegoats. They were blamed for everyone else's problems. This helped to inflame Hitler's hatred for Jews.
The last part of things that we explored was Hitler's family dynamics. His father, Alois Hitler, was suspected to be a narcissist. If what his children did wasn't up to his expectations, then he would beat them. 3 of Hitler's siblings died. His brother Edmund died of measles and was buried in the cemetery next to the house. Hitler could see his brother's grave from his window. From that point on, Hitler became fascinated with war and death. His mother loved him and excessively spoiled him. In total, this tells you that Hitler had an obsession with death, a strong history of abuse, and a feeling that he was better and more worthy than others.
Hitler and his party was responsible for the deaths of about 5.1 million Jews, 2.5 million Polish people, 200,000 to 1 million gypsies, at least 200,000 disabled people in the euthanasia campaigns, at least 200,000 German prisoners, and about 200,000 non-Jew and non-Russian people. It affected the U.S. in many different ways. First of all, many of the soldiers from the U.S. went to go help out with the war and to save the Jews, and many of them ended up giving their lives in response.
In Germany, kids' lives changed when they joined the Hitler Youth Group.
Hitler's adulthood was perhaps no better than his childhood. He was rejected from the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna twice, in 1907 and 1909. His mom died on December 21st, 1907 of breast cancer when he was 17. After she died, he had to give up his money benefits to his sister Paula. He then became a struggling painter, and he was rejected from art school, as I already said. He lived in a homeless shelter for a while, and then he moved into a house for poor working men. He moved to Munich, Germany, and where he fought in World War I. After World War I, he spied on local political groups, and after going on a rampage for a public speaker, he was asked to join a party then known as the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which they called Nazi for short. Hitler chose the swastika, which was a symbol in his childhood home for the Nazi symbol. He was arrested on charges of treason, which is to betray one's country. After he got out of prison, he had to rebuild the Nazi Party. In 1932, he ran for president, but failed to take the president spot. But 1 year later, he became the chancellor of the German government, in which he set law that the Nazi Party would be the only political party in Germany. After Hindenburg died, he became president, and which is when the Jews and non-Nazi Germans began to get persecuted, and basically when the Holocaust began. In conclusion, we believe that Hitler had a few disorders. We diagnosed him using the DSM IV, which is the most current diagnostic criteria and conclusions used by counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists. We believe that Hitler had antisocial personality disorder, better known as being a sociopath or psychopath. It involves several things. The first is, individuals have a pattern of behavior where basic rights of others, societal norms, and rules are violated. The behavior includes aggression to people and animals, destruction of property, deceitfulness, and serious violation of rules. Hitler showed all of these qualities. He had no value of human life or rights. He had no thought when being destructive. He was constantly lying, and he didn't follow rules, and additionally, he made ridiculous rules. Other traits are being manipulative, gain profit or pleasure, repetitive lying, coning others, being irritable and aggressive, reckless disregard for safety of themselves or others. They tend to be extremely irresponsible, showing little or no remorse for acts that are deemed wrong. They can also provide superficial rationalization for bad conduct with others. This specifically stands out with Hitler because of his reasoning for hurting and killing the Jews. Lack of empathy, they are also more likely to die of violent acts such as suicide or homicide. We diagnosed Hitler with this because he pertains to the criterion of 1. Failure to conform to societal norms, 2. Deceitfulness, such as repeated lying and coning others for personal profit and pleasure, 3. Impulsivity, 4. Irritability and aggressiveness, 5. Reckless disregard for safety of self and others, 6. Irresponsibility, 7. Lack of remorse or rationalizing and mistreating others. We also diagnosed him with narcissistic personality disorder. We decided this based on a few things. The first being uncomfortable in situations where he was not the center of attention. Second, inappropriate conduct with other people. Third, rapidly changing and shallow expression of emotions. Fourth, constantly drawing attention to himself. Fifth, traits in speech that are impressionistic. Sixth, dramatization, behaving theoretically and exaggerating. And seventh, considers relationships to be more important and intimate than they actually are. These disorders and characteristics are what shaped Hitler into the vicious dictator that he was.
Hitler was born in Austria on April 20th, 1889. On January 3rd, 1903, Hitler's father died. This might have affected how he thought about just life itself in general and might have caused him to become more depressed during his childhood. Also, Hitler's father beat him and his mother, so it also might have affected the way that he thought about the father figure in general. In 1905, Hitler and his family moved to Vienna. This is where he grew up, and it might have affected his way of thinking. This is also where he first became accustomed to and interested in art. On January 14, 1907, Hitler's mother died. She had breast cancer. She was treated by a Jewish doctor, and when she died, Hitler might have blamed this doctor for her death, and in return, he might have started to hate the Jewish people more. From 1909 to 1913, Hitler lived in Vienna. In Vienna, they were very into blaming Jews for everything. He might have adopted that idea and taken it with him into his future. In 1914 to 1918, Hitler served in World War I. He was very angry at at the German army for giving up on fighting against the enemy, because while he was injured, they decided to retreat. He was angry at them for choosing this. In 1919, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, and in 1920, he formed the Nazi Party. He took his ideas from his younger life with him to the future.
Overall, we conclude that if Hitler's mental state of mind had been treated correctly, all or most of the effects of World War II could have been prevented or diminished.
found this quote in a book that I thought fit this whole project perfectly. It's basically the fact that the right words at the right time can change the world, and that's basically what Hitler did. Through his words, he was able to keep his people in check and to just work with others' ideas and in turn rule.
The last part of our video that we have is a clip of Hitler speaking. He is speaking in German, but what I want you guys to do is notice the aggression and passion in his voice. He was clearly passionate on hurting other people and was a vicious dictator. These are all traits of his narcissistic personality disorder and his antisocial personality disorder. With these, we can tell that Hitler really was an evil person.
Liegt die Zukunft des deutschen Volkes. Wenn wir selbst dieses deutsche Volk emporführen durch eigene Arbeit, durch eigenen Fleiß, eigene Entschlossenheit, eigenen Trotz, eigene Beharrlichkeit, dann werden wir wieder emporsteigen, genau wie die Väter einst aus Deutschland nicht das Geld erhielten, sondern selbst den Schaffen mussten.